Oh boy. So, it's finally time. There we go, I'm putting the chat on. But Oyasumi Punpun, one of the most beloved, one of the most popular mangas out there, right? Reviled by many critics and manga readers alike to be one of the greatest mangas of all time. I put it on a poll. It won like 50% of the votes. And so here we are. I am planning to read all 12 chapters this stream. So this stream can be, this can be a really long stream. just saying, okay. You know me. You know how much I like to talk about stuff. And with a manga like Goodnight Punpun, I don't know. I feel like some of the subject matter in this manga is gonna bring out so many discussions, and I just don't know how long each of these streams are gonna be. But I have a lot of drinks to keep me refreshed, so hopefully the manga isn't gonna give me too many depression, so that I can keep up. But no. Seriously though. Goodnight Punpun is one of those stories that I've heard a lot about, right? Even if you haven't read Goodnight Punpun, you know a lot of people talk about it, right? Specifically like, hey, this story's gonna give you like depression and whatever. And I'm like, I've talked about this yesterday when I was doing a live stream. Basically, stories in general, right? Especially those that deals with depression, nihilism, and whatever. Sure, the journey could be filled with a lot of those. Sorry. As I was saying, those types of stories can be, the journey can be filled with a lot of those stuff and a lot of those, philosophical ideas, subject matters. But by the end of the story, usually it's actually the other way around. Usually a story will hit you with a lot of really hard-hitting things, which is why at the end, when the story does come around and offer something different as an escape, if you will, right? A means to get away from all of those shitty things that was on display in the story, it makes it all the more powerful. Again, I've talked about this during the last stream, but I gave an example like Evangelion and Nier Automata, for example. Those are two stories that a lot of people say, oh, that story, those, they could give depression, right? The story deals with the idea of nihilism and whatever. And to an extent, I agree with, but the ending of those two stories is actually the complete opposite. And that's why I love them, right? They give you the idea of existential dread, but by the end of those stories, the moral message the author gave is actually the polar opposite. It's actually more like a means of escape, like I was saying, right? So that's what I'm hoping for Goodnight Punpun. Sure, the journey throughout most of this can be really, really hard. It can be really hard, it can be really depressing, and it can be like really personal, right, to an extent. But it doesn't mean that by the end of this, that is the moral message. Obviously not. So what I'm hoping to gain from this entire journey is that by the end of it, I can look at this and I can look at some of those like really, really hard-hitting messages and say, wow, I don't want to be like that. I want to change, right? And I feel like that's how most people should consume media. Not look at all of the negative stuff, but look at what those negative stuff can do to you to better yourselves and be positive, right? Just because a story deals with, let's say, genocide, for example, doesn't mean that the story is saying, hey, genocide is good. No, it's the complete polar opposite. It's, hey, genocide is bad. Don't do that shit. I'm looking at you, Attack on Titan fans. I'm looking at you. But, anyways, Goodnight Punpun. What do I know about this story? Not a lot. Not a lot. I already talked about Goodnight Punpun having really heavy messages. But the other thing that I do know about Goodnight Punpun is that there is a bird, and that bird is probably Punpun, and that's pretty much it. Other than that, no idea. No idea. Don't know any of the characters, don't know, like, the main story of Punpun. Like, what is it about, right? Is it a character study? Is it merely a story about Punpun's journey in life? I don't know. I don't know what to expect, other than the fact that this story has a lot of ideas and a lot of themes that some people may find disturbing. And to me, that is exactly what I'm looking for. So, 12 chapters of Goodnight Punpun. I'm reading the official translated version. The omnibus version, to be more precise. And here's another thing. So it's a good thing that I made a stream yesterday, because some people in that stream actually talked about something that I wasn't really expecting, and that is nudity. Goodnight Punpun apparently has a lot of nudity, right? And that was something that I wasn't really expecting, and that was something that I wasn't really prepared for when I was doing the stream, right? Because how do I show this, right? Because I want to show it, right? I want to show the panels, but at the same time, you know, if it happens, then it happens, right? So that's why I kind of stream a little late, because I was like busy thinking like, okay, how do I do this? How am I gonna do this? I'll just cut to the actual manga screen right now. That is the end of part 1, or volume 1 of Punpun. It was a really joy to read, and when I say joy, I mean it was interesting, to say the least. There's definitely a lot of stuff going on right in the back that I'm kind of holding off on further discussing some of those things, because I kind of want to see things develop later on before I give my discussions. But most of my discussion would probably be from like the first chapter, right? That first chapter took me like, I don't know how many times to finish, but it was one of my favorite first chapters so far. This is fun. This is great. And when I say fun, I mean, again, just enjoyable to read until some of the depressing stuff happens, maybe later on in the future. But overall, beautiful artwork, beautiful panelings. Punpun is really well written, in my opinion. He, I would say, is realistic in a sense of, you know, capturing that childish behavior of like an 11-year-old, 12-year-old that is still trying to find who he is, trying to discover who he is, right? And learning all of these new stuff along the way, and him figuring out like what to do in life, right? Being friends with other people, meeting a bunch of friends, having dealing with issues surrounding his family and whatever. These are all stuff that is currently being set up, right, as like a foundation, and that in later chapters later on in the story I can see these things kind of slowly building up more and more and more, right? He may seem fine at first, he may, accept the status quo, but later on, how much can he handle this, right? How much can normal be enough, right? So I think that's pretty much it. I'm not gonna cut this discussion short because I'm not trying to make my end discussion short because I want to pee or anything. No, I'm joking. Yeah, no, I really need to pee. I shared Punpun sentiment really, really well. Thank you guys so much for joining in. Same time next week. I don't know if next week I'm gonna finish, the rest of this omnibus volume, part 2, volume 2. But we shall see. We shall see. How long have I been streaming actually? Almost 3 hours. Ugh. Almost 3 hours. There we go. If you do enjoy my read through this and reaction, hit the like. And if you haven't already, subscribe. And I will see you all next week for the next part of Goodnight Punpun. Alright, that's it from me. Take care, everyone. I will see you all next time. Bye bye.